Thank you for your time today. This is a brief demonstration on why you would commit your office building to the JAGONAL platform. There's a number of things I'll be running through today. So obviously we have, you may know us from the jagonal.com.au website, which is an office portal. You would have heard of us from our newsletter Up at Sparrows. And our new offering, which is the main focus of our demo today, is about JAGONAL Pro. So whilst I'm on the jagonal.com.au website, let me just show you if a owner was to commit a building to the platform in terms of the public website. This is what you would see. So points of difference of us versus Real Commercial and other portals is that we have, to every building address, we have a building sheet. And then here, again, if the asset manager were to commit to the platform, we can work together between ourselves to ensure that all the information on your building is correct, so that we've got all the latest photos. Here we go into the individual splits of all the individual offices. Now this is where we're different versus a typical Real Commercial classified style sort of ad system, in that we go and break each individual office into separate listings. So by paying for a 12-month campaign, you commit to the campaign, and then you can list as many office suites as you please. You can add as many as you like, take them off to the campaign period, because they can't be sort of attached as one classified ad, because as you guys would know, there's every different level has different prices, they have different features, they have different availabilities. So you can't sort of put all that together in one classified ad and put it on a portal, because then you can't search by availability date, by different sizing, by different pricing. So here, this is the listings we've got to date at the moment, and these would have been fed in as a free listing from agency groups through a automated property feed. So then if I click on any of these individual listings, it then takes me into a separate listing sheet. So this is where we separate all the buildings. So here, as you can see, they're pretty standard kind of external photos they've used for this particular office. But again, this is where we're looking to take things further, in that it's not just about promoting the building. If you've got a floor plate which is empty, yes, you may not have much material, but if you've got a photo of an empty floor plate, you could show photos of that to, it might have kitchen areas to, but you could also take photos of a potential what that flat fit out could be. Sorry, what that flat floor plate could be if it was fitted. So this is what it could look like if it was a law firm, or this is what it could look like if it was a tech company. So this is where sort of Jagonal are going in terms of the content, and really showcasing to the end user, the tenant or a tenant rep, that there's really good content. They can get everything they want from the portal, and then it's about when they make the inquiry, you're really dealing with decision makers, people that are looking to do a deal. It's not about driving them through in numbers to an inspection, and then of 50 people, 49 of them were time wasters because they didn't get enough information from the platform. So that's just a very quick overview of the Jagonal website. If you didn't know, if you've never used it, never seen how we sort of go from building sheet to separated listings. But again, if you're to commit to 12 months, again, we can work together to populate the building, and then have access to drive the listings, which is what other institutional landlords are doing now, in that they're taking more control, working closely with Jagonal, and they're handling the office advertising. Yes, you can have your appointed agents still on the space. It's just more, this way you control the listings. That way the information is always right. The availability is always up to date, because agents, well, some agents have kept listings up on portals just to use them as a sort of take that tenant and then drive them off to another space that they have. So which is what's called bait listings. So it kind of eliminates all of those. So the Jagonal website itself is doing continuing to do really well. Traffic is definitely growing month to month, as is the inquiry. But most of the churn that happens on any online portal is generally more for smaller stock. So anything under 300 square meters, that's where a lot of the churn happens on not just our portal, but I mean on the other portals as well. And so that's fine. I mean, we do get inquiry for bigger spaces, for half floors, full floors, multi floors, but again, you just don't get as higher numbers. And why is that so? And it's generally because anyone who's a professional, someone who's a big law firm, a bank, any big sort of blue chip company, instead of searching the internet, they'll start at Google, land on a portal, and search. They'll generally put it in the hands of a professional to go and do the search for them because there's a lot to the office lease. So they'll hire a professional known as a tenant rep, and tenant reps generally look after anything over 300 square meters. So we had to go and build tool and something that works for tenant reps. So whilst this works for, yes, you get, as I say, you get some leads and so forth for smaller, for bigger inquiries, but due to the volume that comes, the volume of those bigger spaces, you've got to look after the tenant rep. And then after learning, Jagonal went out then and went out to learn, how does a tenant rep operate? Are they using portals? And the answer that was coming back from tenant reps is no. Now, why is that the case? Because tenant reps feel that, again, it's that information that's up on these portals is incorrect or not enough information. They don't get a floor plan. The agents are leaving stock up on a portal where they know it's outdated due to their own knowledge. So it's a lot of time wasting going on. So yes, they may have a look at a portal just to do a bit of a canvas, but they don't rely on them and really don't spend much time on a portal at all. And that's a big problem, seeing that they actually look after those bigger deals. So what happened was that Jagonal were actually approached by a tenant rep group and said, look, we love your technology. We love the search, the level of detail you're going to in terms of building information, and then and then deeper into the office availability information. So can you build us tool that because the way we're operating is quite clunky. So can you sort of help us streamline a process? So Jagonal worked closely with that tenor rep group. Just to let you know, that tenor rep group was Franklin Shanks here in Sydney. So then after learning how does a tenor rep operate? So as you would know, they have their list of requirements. They might be representing Uber. Uber will say, these are all the things that we want in an office. The tenor rep puts all that together, formulates a PDF, and then they send that PDF out into the market. So they hit all the agents, they may hit some asset managers, but they're only sending it to contacts that they know of in the industry. So do they have everybody in that exists out there? Are they hitting every agent? Are they hitting every asset manager? It doesn't seem to be the case. So we can help extend that contacts list, which I'll talk to as we get into the demo. So after learning about, and then, so what happens then is that all the market then send back listing sheets back to the tenant rep. The tenant rep, depending on the market that they're working in, if it's Melbourne and Sydney at the moment, which are hot, the response might not be that big. But if I'm dealing with a Perth or a Brisbane where struggling markets, they could get as much as 80 to 100 submissions back. So then the tenant rep has to spend a lot of time going through all the response that came in to the brief, and then narrow that right down to a shorter short list. A lot of time wasting going on there. Big pain points from the tenant rep in that they were saying, they're not getting enough information from the agents as to, yes, they get the top level, there's a price, there's a what level it's on, but there's no floor plan. And they might then be chasing down an agent for 2 weeks on end saying, look, I like your space, but I just need more content. I need more information. I need to know on the floor to ceiling heights. I need that floor plan. I need to know a test fit. So please supply that information. And then they could be wasting weeks on end just to get that information that they need to then move that building across into their shortlist and narrow it right down for a deal. So that's what Jagonal Pro has brought in, is that we've come in, listened to the tenor rep, work with the tenant reps in building this system. And then we went out and spoke to all the tenant rep groups in town and just said, right, again, just verifying if these pain points are the same across the board instead of if it was just one tenant rep group versus others. And then what we came together was, so this is a tool that's been built, as I say, with the tenant rep community. We see the tenant rep as the real power player. They look after the bigger spaces. So this is like a complementary tool, Jagonal Pro, that sits behind the scenes of the public platform that you would have seen. So let me just jump in and show you what Jagonal Pro is. Now, what I'll do is that I'll show you the system as if this is so we put this in the hands of the tenant rep, and the tenant rep uses this. Now, what does the owner get out of that? It's about giving you back information and putting your listings in front of the tenant rep community, perhaps before the rest of the market have a chance to. So there's lots of benefits which I'll talk through as I sort of show you the system. So again, this is a tenor rep. I'll pretend I'm a tenor rep putting a case in here. So they start off by they go and create their brief. So I'll go and create a new brief. They start off by, this is just typical information. So again, I'll just say that they're Uber, the industry they're part of. Now, whatever industry is selected here, this all forms up reporting behind the scenes of intel that we could again give back to you in terms of a report to say there's X number of utilities and construction companies looking in certain areas. So again, their current address, just putting in anything here, a description of the client. You can drop in their logo. Now, you say the location that they're after. So, excuse me, but I'm in Sydney, so I know the Sydney market like the back of my hand. So if I start off by going Sydney CBD, I can then get really specific here and say, which area do you want to be in? The client has specified that they want to be in this area here, so I can draw my location. It could be multiple locations, this area or this area here. This is very common in what you would have seen in briefs in terms of boundaries that the client has specified or the tenant rep has specified on the brief. So there's the location I'm after. The size, between 400 and 500 square meters. Again, there's a lot of detail here. You don't have to put it all in. The lease commencement, it might be January next year in an A and B grade building. Again, there's fitted options, there's terms, so maybe a 2 and 2. Now if I get down into the features, these are all the features that JAGONAL have in our system. So end of trip facilities might be important. Now you see it's come across to the right hand side here. Now you actually go and give it a score out of 10 on how important it is. So I might say it's a 7 out of 10. They want to be near train stations. It's pretty high, but it's not a deal breaker. And they want good natural light. It's a 5-5. I could put in custom options. I could say I want, ceiling min height of perhaps 8 feet. Again, I can go and give that a score out of 10. The tenant rep then puts an expiry date on it to say I want all my submissions back by, say, the 28th of October at a certain time. Again, this is all general practice on how they're operating now. PM, and then I would save that option into my system. So the brief's in, locked away. Now the tenant rep goes, okay, before I jump off to that, now that that brief's gone into the system, what's JAGONAL do? And again, this is for paying customers only. If you have a space in that particular region, within those particular that size bracket, with an A and B grade building, if you've already loaded stock into the platform, whilst this brief's hit the system, it'll automatically send an email to you to say you have a match. So you have matching stock to this brief. Would you like to, so it'll give you an option, would you like to put that stock that we're highlighting to you back to the tenant rep to sort of put it in as a submission to their brief to be considered. So again, you've got the opportunity to send that to the tenant rep before the tenant rep has even distributed this brief out to the market. So that's a paid feature of committing to JAGONAL Pro and the JAGONAL platform as a paid customer. If not, again, the general process of a tenant rep to say, I'm going to distribute the brief. Now, here's a Sydney CBD brief. These are just dummy contacts in here, but it would list all of their contacts that they've entered into their system on who they want to send it to. Now, what we also do is that we go and you'll see this list down the bottom. We are recommending other contacts that they may not have in their contacts database. So again, if we had an asset manager set to all of your buildings that are all covered and paid for, we could recommend to say, how about hitting these individuals as well? So yes, you might get the automated submission option, but this is again just sort of extending it to say, again, you'd only be shown in this list if you're a paying supporting customer. So this is just a way of extending the tenor rep to make sure that they're always hitting you. So if they then send the brief out to the market, I'll just send you a dummy here. I'll send that. Off it goes. Then it'll come in as an email. So a new client requirement comes in. There's information. This is just a very vanilla looking email, just saying this tenant rep has a client. This is the location they're after. Some options here on the area, the lease commencement, etc. The closing date. So an agent would receive this from the tenant rep, or as again an asset manager. Now, if I want to submit stock, they would click that submit now. This then goes off to an online form with a standardized online form where the agents or asset managers would then go and submit stock to the brief. But again, you would not need to go through this process if you had matching stock. And when you are highlighted with that email to say there's a match, all you do is have to hit a big a button to then say, yes, I want to submit it. So it's almost like semi-submission. It's not full submission. So you could then actually go in here and check exactly the stock that matched. If you wanted to add any extra criteria to say, well, this has changed or that's changed, you could make that change and then submit it to the tenant rep. But in the other instance, so somebody in the industry would submit their stock. So they say, I've got a building in 123 Pitt Street. It then brings up all information on that building. So Jagonal already cover this. So we already have the sector, the grade, what the outgoings are. Again, if we were working closely with you, the owner, to ensure that our building information is correct on your asset, it's critical. Any building amenities, showers and lockers, local amenities, etc. Then all the agent has to do is add their level of availability on top of that. So they just say, I've got a space in that building on level 5. Might be 400 square meters. Oh, sorry, the suite was just on level 5, or maybe it's level 501. 400 square meters. It may have a subdivision option of 250 if it's fitted or refurbished. I'm just putting in anything here. Any comments about the office itself? Maybe it's a great office with natural light. Then they put on the availability date, just a date picker. I'm just picking anything here. Car spacing, parking comments. Now, these are where the specific requirements on the brief. Now, it's automatically ticked showers and lockers and trains due to Jagonal populating that information on where the building sits. These to the right are specific on the office itself, so they wanted natural light. And the agent says, does it have great natural light? Yes or no. Does it have ceiling heights that fit within the brief? Yes or no. Who the agent is who is submitting it. So I could put anybody here. Could be Grant Jennings. We have all of the agents in our system, asset managers too. Photos, so they can go and drop on any listing photos that they may have on their computer. Or again, this is where we're working with you, the owners, to ensure that all the content is readily available and there to use. So again, if it's in the Jagonal platform, I can go and reuse any actual listing photos. So then the agent doesn't sort of have to bobble around and try and find content. Again, documents, I can go and upload floor plans, fit out plans, IM. Again, if you had dropped in that material in the Jagonal platform, there'd be a box down here and I could drag and drop them up, like reusing the material. So that's where we want to go with this level of having it all readily available so there's no delays, so that the tenant rep has everything he needs to get the deal done. Because remember, he's representing Uber. So give him everything he needs so that you are a really strong chance every time to hitting his shortlist and being considered. Then I would submit that. Now that submission has gone into the system. So a brief's in the system, a submission's gone in the system. Now that process will just repeat until you actually hit the brief expiry. So again, everybody in the market will receive an email to say, this brief is about to close, last chance to get your stock in. Once you hit that deadline date, submission stops. Then the tenant rep comes back into the system It says, okay, well, I've got 50 responses or however many I got. They'll come into what we call the response board. Now, this is where they come and see the results. Now, what it does, so here's your brief up the top here in terms of a brief summary. Then there's two buckets on where it drops in all these submissions. All the submissions that match exactly to the brief are in the on-brief bucket. Anything that's outside of the parameters go into the off-brief bucket, the red. So nothing gets thrown away, everything's considered, and it's just here, we don't replace any human element. Here the tenor rep goes and moves things around the board and makes his own decisions on what he thinks suits. So again, why are these off brief? Well, the size, the brief was for 400 to 500 square meters. A 600 square meter option came in, so it's put it into the off brief. Another option here is this one's, so it highlights all the things on why it's off brief. So it was for a A and B grade building. Here's an option here for grade C. Another one is the actual location. So it was outside the boundary on what I drew up. Again, it's in here, but it doesn't throw it away. Then you can always move any of, so something might be just outside of a boundary, or it might be, it's a C grade building, but look, I know it's a great building. So I can always move it across into my consideration bucket. So I can move it to off brief or on brief. I can move them between, again, what the tenant rep knows about the market and about the buildings, and after his phone calls he's made directly to agents when he's following up. You'll see that why does this one have Charter Hall and a few bullet points? Now again, Charter Hall, investor as well below, they're committing to this platform. So by paying for listings, again, we sort of separate you from other submissions that come in from agents where they might not be paid customers. So, excuse me. So what it'll do is it'll give you an option to have your logo, 3 bullet points to, again, put you in front of the rest, give you a chance to, again, just almost highlighting to you, to the tenor app to say, consider this building, consider this building. What's here on the right? This is other matching buildings. So these are other buildings where no submission came in from either yourselves or your appointed agents. So the tenor rep can, again, this is about them checking the market to see that they've covered everything. So they can look through this list because it matches the same grade, it matches the same location to the brief. So they can then go through any of these options and consider put into consideration, do I want to drop these across? Because the tenor rep may know that, hey, I know there's stock in 9 Castle Ray Street, I just didn't get anything. Now, I could make the phone call, the agent says, yes, sorry, I've been away, I just didn't get the submission in. You can always bring that across into the consideration bucket. So I'm dragging 9 Castle Ray Street, then you just go and add your level of, so you can then edit it, so all the building information is already there. They would then just go and add the actual information on the office itself. So that's the system in terms of on brief, off brief, other matching buildings. Again, we're about to change this other matching buildings now. So again, just the paying customers, we'll put those buildings at the top. It'll again be your logo with 3 bullet points next to each. And then any other buildings, again, within the brief but aren't paying customers, we'll put them down the bottom of the list, kind of again, putting you sort of front of house. The idea then is for the tenor rep to then move any submissions that they like across to their end option of their shortlist. These are the buildings I'm going to present to Uber. Then they use their own custom bespoke outputs in terms of presenting that to their client. And then again, what does the owner get out of this system? So again, there's just something, I've sent you this material before, but again, that's an important slide to look at in terms of the problem for the owner. We've heard that, you've spent time putting submission in, you don't so much hear, did it get accepted? Have I made a short list? Briefs are being missed. Other important slides to look at from here. Again, it's all about the content. So you get the, on the cards, logo, 3 extra bullet points. Can you be feeding into this platform the things that the tenor reps are all crying out for? Can they have floor plans, fit out plans, good quality images? It could be CAD drawings, IMs. Give them everything they want in a platform. More detail back to an owner. So again, you'll get by paying, you'll get all kinds of alert emails to say, if your submission was put through, yes, it was accepted and we'll consider that. Thank you for submitting. Or it could be, here's an option that matches our brief. Again, do you want to semi-submit your options that you have? We can give you back all kinds of intel on the tenant movements that I was saying earlier in our demo. So the industry type they're from, or the kinds of tenants looking in this size bracket to these are the hot areas on a map, like heat maps. Again, we might not disclose who the actual tenant was, again, just due to the sensitivities that what the tenant rep may want to report back to you, the owner. But again, we'll give you as much information as we can. Again, in a platform, if you're putting a lot of information here, you can really start dealing with sensitive information like lease surrenders. You don't want to put that on a public platform on the Jagonal front, jagonal.com.au website, but you could put it into the Jagonal Pro system and again start working directly with a tenant rep. By any inspection, again, if you're putting good level detail into those building sheets with all the information, ceiling heights, air conditioning systems, all these things, again, maybe it's your appointed agent who's at the inspection. They get hit with really hard questions from tenant reps, and feedback we're receiving is that the agent just doesn't know this level of detail. They could bring it up on a mobile phone while standing in front of the tenant rep and say, well, I can tell you the ceiling height is this. I can tell you the floor plan is this, and I can, bang, I can email you the floor plan. All of that material. So just in terms of pricing, as I say, for each per building is $3,650 plus GST. And then with that payment, that's for unlimited office listings that you put up on the public website. The listings are also then fed into the Jagonal Pro system for the tenant reps behind the scene. You get all levels of information back in terms of tenant movements, reporting on what tenant reps are up to. Um, that versus what you're doing on other portals where it might be a $5,000, $9,000 spend, where you're really battling it out to try and get on page one, but within perhaps a week of posting that advertisement, that one classified ad, you're being pushed to page 3, and then your audience isn't even seeing those your listings. And it's a lot of money you're spending there. We're here, you're covering smaller market, front-end website, big market, tenant reps. We also, with that advertisement, we can promote your buildings. So our newsletter, Up at Sparrows, you may already be subscribed. So this is the general look of it, 4 major stories. And then again, we have like 2 feature property slots down there. So again, if you committed your building, we could actively really press on advertising that building to an audience. So the audience of Up at Sparrows is about 5,000 people. Hits everybody in market, hits tenant reps, it hits investors, it hits overseas audience. And it also still holds a 43% open rate, which is extremely large. So you get a lot for your money there. So that's everything from me in terms of quickly in a nutshell what jagonal.com.au is, to what you get on Jagonal Pro, to again other ways through Up at Sparrows, the newsletter, on again helping to push your buildings in front of audience. And for a spend of $3,650 plus GST for 12 months, it's really affordable. Any questions, you can always contact me. I'm Andrew Brown on andrew.brown@jagonal.com.au. Thanks very much.